The Krotek Queen's proposal was the last thing any human expected to hear in the depths of an alien hive. "Alliance," she said, the word echoing through the organic chamber. "Your species has something mine needs. We have something yours will need very soon." Commander Wu Jin kept his weapon ready. "We don't make alliances with planet killers. You misunderstand our nature, small predator. We do not consume worlds from malice. We consume them from necessity. Our home star is dying. Our original worlds are already dead. We have 15 years before our species faces complete extinction." Young Shin was recording everything, sending real-time data back to Admiral Park. "You could have asked for help instead of attacking innocent people." The Queen's massive form shifted, neural cables pulsing with bioluminescent patterns. "Ask for help? From prey species? Your galaxy is populated by herbivores who flee at the first sign of conflict. We tried diplomacy once long ago. They offered us empty worlds with no resources, then declared us a threat when we refused to starve quietly. So you decided to become the monsters they said you were," Kevlin said, her voice full of pain and anger. "We decided to survive," the Queen replied. "But your species, you are different. You understand survival. You understand that sometimes violence is necessary to protect what matters." Jamin Yu lowered his rifle slightly. "What are you proposing?" "Protection," the Queen said. "My children have analyzed galactic databases during our conquests. There is a threat coming that will make our invasion look insignificant." "The Void Hunters," So Young Kim frowned. "Never heard of them. Because the galactic civilizations have hidden the truth. The Void Hunters are energy beings that consume entire star systems. They have already devoured the Andromeda galaxy. They arrive in this galaxy within 50 years. The strike team exchanged glances. This was far beyond their mission parameters. "The prey species know this," the Queen continued. "Their councils have been debating response strategies for decades. Their plan is to hide, to hope the Void Hunters will consume other regions first. They are willing to sacrifice entire sectors to buy themselves time." "And you're different how?" asked Wu Jin. "We offer to fight. But we cannot fight the Void Hunters without resources, without worlds to support our bioships. The prey species would rather see us extinct than help us become strong enough to defend the galaxy." Young Shin was monitoring communications from the surface. "Commander, Admiral Park wants to speak with you." "Priority channel." Wu Jin accepted the communication. Admiral Park's voice came through clearly despite the distance and interference. "Commander, we're monitoring your conversation. Earth Command has been briefed on the situation. What's your assessment?" "Ma'am, the Queen claims to have intelligence about a galactic threat that the other species are hiding from us. She's offering alliance in exchange for resources to fight this threat." "And your opinion of her truthfulness?" Wu Jin looked at the massive alien creature that had ordered the deaths of millions of Villani. "She's desperate, ma'am. But I think she's telling the truth about the threat. The question is whether we can trust her with resources." Kevlin stepped forward. "Admiral Park, this creature destroyed my world. Killed billions of my people. How can you consider working with such a monster?" "Because," the Queen said before Admiral Park could respond, "sometimes monsters are what you need to fight worse monsters. Your Deathworlder species understands this. You have monsters in your own history who became heroes when faced with greater threats." Admiral Park's voice was thoughtful. "Queen, you're asking us to trust you with the power to consume more worlds. What guarantee do we have that you won't turn on us?" "None," the Queen replied honestly. "Just as I have no guarantee that your species won't decide we are too dangerous to exist once the Void Hunters are defeated. But I offer you something no other galactic species has: honest communication between predators." "Explain." "Your species and mine evolved to hunt, to fight, to survive in hostile environments. We understand each other in ways that prey species cannot comprehend. They fear us both because they know we are capable of violence they cannot imagine, but they need us for the same reason." So Young Kim had been thinking about the tactical implications. "Queen, even if we allied with you, how would we coordinate our forces? Your people operate through hive minds. Humans are individuals." "An excellent question," the Queen replied. "I propose a hybrid approach. Some of my children can operate independently, like your soldiers. Some of your people could interface with our bioneural networks like our drones. It would require trust from both species." "And the Villani?" asked Kevlin. "What about the survivors of your invasion?" The Queen's attention focused on the small alien warrior. Rehabilitation. My bioships can restore damaged ecosystems as easily as they can consume them. Your world could be healed, made better than it was before. It would take time, but it is possible. Admiral Park's voice cut through the discussion. Commander, we need a decision. Long-range sensors are detecting Crotech reinforcements approaching this system. If we're going to fight them, we need to know now. Wu Jin looked around his team, then at Kevlin, then at the massive queen. Ma'am, request permission to ask the queen to demonstrate her good faith. Granted. Queen. If you want alliance with humanity, prove it. Call off your reinforcements. Begin healing the damage to this world. Show us that cooperation is possible. The queen was silent for several minutes, her neural cables pulsing with complex patterns. Finally, she spoke. Very well, small predator. I will recall my swarm. I will begin healing this world. But in return, I want your admiral to meet with me personally, and I want access to human combat data from this engagement. Why our combat data? Asked Nayang Shin. Because if we are to fight the Void Hunters together, my children must learn to fight like Deathworlders. Your tactics, your refusal to retreat, your ability to turn any environment into a weapon, these are skills we will need. Admiral Park made her decision. Agreed, but with conditions. The healing of this world begins immediately. Any sign of deception, any threat to human or Volani personnel, and we resume hostilities. Acceptable, the Queen replied. Over the following days, something unprecedented happened in galactic history. Human Marines worked alongside Crotech bioengineers to restore damaged Volani cities. The alien technologies complemented each other in unexpected ways. Human engineering expertise guided Crotech biological restoration processes. Kevlin found herself working as a translator between species that had been mortal enemies days before. This is insane, she told Major Lim as they watched Crotech drones carefully replanting Volani gardens. Most of human history is insane, Lim replied. We fought wars with people who became our closest allies 20 years later. Sometimes circumstances change everything. The real test came when Admiral Park met with the Queen in person. The massive chamber had been modified with human-compatible atmosphere, but the sight of the enormous alien creature was still intimidating. You are smaller than I expected, the Queen observed. You're bigger than I hoped, Admiral Park replied. But size doesn't determine effectiveness. Humans learned that lesson early. Indeed, I have been studying your species' history through your databases. You have fought wars against each other for resources, territory, ideology, yet when faced with external threats, you unite quickly. This is a valuable trait. The galaxy is about to learn how valuable, Admiral Park said. Our alliance will change everything. Other species will have to choose sides. Many will oppose us, the Queen warned. They will see this alliance as proof that both our species are too dangerous to exist. Then they'll learn why attacking Deathworlders is a bad idea, Admiral Park replied grimly. 6 months later, the first joint human Crotech patrol ship encountered a Void Hunter scout near the edge of the galaxy. Captain Daeho Kim, now commanding the hybrid vessel Unity's Edge, worked alongside a Crotech war leader named Zithkar to analyze the energy being's capabilities. It's like fighting living starlight, Daeho reported to Fleet Command. Our kinetic weapons pass right through it. The Crotech bioacids have no effect. But the creature retreated when we coordinated our attacks, added Zithkar through the bio-neural interface. It does not understand cooperation between different species. This may be our advantage. Back on the healed world of Verdania, Veltar and other Volani leaders watched the news reports with mixed feelings. Their planet was more beautiful than ever, with new forests and restored cities. But the cost of that restoration was alliance with their former destroyers. Do you think we can trust them? Asked young Mirani, who had learned to speak fluent Korean from her human friends. I think, Veltar replied thoughtfully, that we are about to find out what happens when the galaxy's predators decide to work together instead of competing. The message boards of the galactic communication networks were full of worried discussions. The peaceful Zephyrian Council declared the human Crotech alliance a threat to galactic stability. The Crystalline Dominion began mobilizing defensive fleets. Other species started choosing sides, but Admiral Park wasn't worried about galactic politics. She was preparing for something much more dangerous. The Void Hunters were coming, and when they arrived, they would find a galaxy defended by an alliance. The intelligence came from a badly injured Volani scout named Kevlin, who had spent weeks hiding in the deep tunnels before the human rescue. Her information was terrifying. The Crotech Queen was not just a leader, but a massive bioorganism that controlled the entire swarm through neural connections. "She is in the deepest chamber," Kevlin explained to Admiral Park through a translator. "Our people tried to reach her during the first days of the invasion. None returned. The tunnels are filled with warrior drones, acid pools, and—" She paused, struggling with the translation. "Living darkness that consumes light itself." Lieutenant Haewon Kim, the fleet's intelligence officer, had been analyzing the tunnel systems using deep scan sensors. "Admiral, the Queen's chamber appears to be nearly 3 kilometers underground. The tunnel system is like a 3-dimensional maze with thousands of dead ends and trap chambers." "How many Crotech warriors between us and the target?" asked Admiral Park. "Conservative estimate? 50,000. Maybe more. An orbital bombardment would require us to crack the planet's crust. The Villani survivors would die from the seismic activity, and the planet would be uninhabitable for centuries." Admiral Park studied the tactical displays. A direct assault through the tunnels would be suicide for most species. The Crotech had every advantage underground: superior numbers, knowledge of the terrain, and environmental controls that could kill intruders in dozens of ways. For humans, it was just another extremely dangerous mission. "We're going in," she decided. "But this needs to be a small, fast team. Too many people, and we'll get bogged down fighting every drone in the hive system." Commander Wu Jinjiang volunteered to lead the strike team. He was Admiral Park's best special operations officer, a man who had survived the methane storms of Titan and the radiation fields around Jupiter's moons. "I want volunteers only," he announced to the assembled Special Forces units. "This mission has a low probability of survival. We're going into unknown territory against an enemy that outnumbers us thousands to 1. Every hand in the room went up. "Typical humans," muttered Dr. Hyunwoo Choi, who was monitoring the briefing from the medical bay. Woo Jin selected his team carefully. Demolitions expert So Young Kim, who could make explosives from almost anything. Sniper Jae Min Yu, whose accuracy was legendary even by human standards. And communications specialist Na Young Shin, who had managed to partially decode Crotech bio-neural signals. To everyone's surprise, Kevlin insisted on joining the mission. "You cannot navigate the deep tunnels without a guide," the Villani warrior explained. "I know the old paths, the ones that existed before the Crotech changed everything." "You'll slow us down," Wu Jin said bluntly. "Human combat operations are fast and violent. Your people aren't built for that kind of warfare." "Perhaps," Kevlin replied, "but I am the only one who has seen the Queen's chamber and survived. Without me, you will spend days searching for paths that no longer exist." Admiral Park made the decision. "She goes with you. But Kevlin, you follow Commander Jang's orders without question. Human combat doctrine is different from anything you've experienced." The descent into the hive system began at dawn. The strike team entered through a tunnel complex that Major Lim's forces had cleared the day before. But within an hour they were in territory no human had ever seen. The tunnels were worse than anything they had imagined. The walls were alive, pulsing with bioluminescent veins that provided the only light. The air was thick with organic particles that would have choked most aliens. Strange sounds echoed from the darkness ahead. Chittering, scraping, and something that sounded like breathing. "Atmosphere is toxic but manageable," reported Na Young Shin, checking her sensors. "Temperature is rising as we go deeper. Currently 39 degrees Celsius. Feels like home," muttered So Young Kim, adjusting her equipment pack. Kevlin was already struggling. The Villani was tough by her species standards, but she was moving slowly and breathing hard. "How do your people survive in conditions like this?" she asked. "Practice," replied Jamin Yu, scanning ahead with his rifle scope. "Earth is a hostile planet. This is just another Tuesday." They had been descending for 2 hours when they encountered the first wave of Crotech defenders. Warrior drones emerged from side tunnels, moving with the coordination of a hive mind. These were different from the ones they had fought on the surface. Larger, more heavily armored, and equipped with bioweapons that sprayed acid. Wu Jin's team responded with the fluid violence that made human special forces legendary. So Young Kim's explosives collapsed tunnel sections, channeling the enemy into kill zones. Jae Min Yu's sniper shots took out warrior drones before they could coordinate attacks. Na Young Shin used her electronics to disrupt the bio-neural signals that linked the hive mind. But what impressed Kevlin most was how the humans fought while moving. Most galactic species took defensive positions and fought from cover. Humans kept advancing even while under attack, using the Krotek's own tunnels as weapons. Your people fight like predators, she observed during a brief pause. Because we are predators, Wu Jin replied simply. On Earth, everything that survived learned to hunt. As they went deeper, the environmental hazards increased. Pools of bioacid blocked passages. Living walls tried to trap intruders. The temperature rose to levels that made even humans sweat heavily in their armor. How much deeper? Asked So Young Kim, wiping condensation from her visor. 2 more levels, Kevlin replied. She was barely keeping up now, her alien physiology struggling with the heat and toxins. But the hardest part is ahead. The Queen's Guardians are not like the warriors we have fought. They are different, she was right. The creatures that guarded the deepest levels were unlike anything in the human combat manuals. Some were massive armored behemoths that shrugged off kinetic weapons. Others were small and fast, moving like liquid shadows through the organic tunnels. But the most disturbing were the ones that seemed to think independently. These Krotek warriors didn't follow hive mind patterns. They set traps, used tactics, and worst of all, they seemed to be studying human combat techniques. They're learning from us, Na Young Shin reported after monitoring their bio-neural communications. The hive mind is analyzing our movements, our weapons, our tactics. Then we need to do something they can't analyze, Wu Jin decided. His solution was typically human. Instead of following the tunnel system deeper, So Young Kim used shaped charges to blow straight down through the hive structure's floor levels. It was dangerous, potentially suicidal, and completely unpredictable. It worked perfectly. They dropped through 3 levels of hive structure in a controlled demolition that brought them directly to the Queen's chamber. The massive space was like a cathedral made of living tissue, with organic pillars that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, and in the center, connected to the hive structure by thousands of neural cables, was the Krotek Queen. She was enormous, easily 50 meters long, with a segmented body that seemed part insect, part plant, part machine. Her head was surprisingly small for her body size, but her eyes were large and intelligent. Most shocking of all, when she saw the humans enter her chamber, she spoke. Deathworlders, she said in perfect English, her voice coming from bioacoustic organs throughout the chamber. I have been watching your species through the eyes of my children. You are fascinating. Wu Jin kept his weapon ready but didn't fire. You can talk. I can do much more than talk, small predator. I have been studying your combat recordings, your tactical patterns, your species' psychological profiles. You are the first race we have encountered that my children fear. Good, replied Jae-min Yu. Fear is smart when you're dealing with humans. The Queen's massive eyes focused on each team member in turn. You have come to kill me. You're murdering an entire planet, Wu Jin said. Yes, we've come to stop you. And yet you brought one of the prey creatures with you, the Queen observed, looking at Kevlin. You protect those weaker than yourselves. This is unexpected behavior for apex predators. Kevlin stepped forward, her voice shaking but determined. You destroyed my world, killed my people. You have no right to exist. The Queen's attention shifted fully to the Villani warrior. Little prey creature, your species had millions of years to evolve into something capable of defending itself. You chose philosophy over strength, art over warfare. The universe rewards strength. The universe rewards cooperation, Na Young-shin interrupted. That's why we're here. The Queen considered this. Yes, your species does something mine cannot. You work with other races, protect the weak, fight for principles rather than just survival. It is inefficient. And yet you defeated my swarm. Because we're better than you, So Young Kim said bluntly. Perhaps, the Queen replied. But I have a proposal for you, Deathworlders. One that might interest apex predators like yourselves. What the Queen said next would change everything the humans thought they knew about the galactic situation. And it would force them to make a choice that would define humanity's role in the universe for generations to come. With the Krotek fleet retreating, Admiral Park faced a new problem. The planet below was still infested with Krotek ground forces. Massive hive complexes covered what used to be Villani cities, and millions of Krotek warriors were still consuming everything organic they could find. Ma'am, we're getting weak signals from multiple locations on the surface, reported Communications Officer Seo. The Villani survivors are hiding in underground shelters, but their life support systems are failing. Admiral Park studied the tactical displays. How long do they have? Based on their messages, maybe 12 hours before their air recyclers give out. After that, Seo didn't need to finish. Orbital bombardment would be fastest, suggested Lieutenant Kang. We could glass the hive complexes from orbit and kill every Villani still alive on the planet. Admiral Park replied. No, we go down there and do this the hard way. Dr. Hyunwoo Choi looked worried. Admiral, the surface conditions are extremely dangerous. The Krotech have been releasing toxic spores into the atmosphere. The temperature is fluctuating wildly because their feeding process is disrupting the planet's ecosystem. Most of the surface water has been contaminated with bioacids. Doctor, you just described a typical Tuesday on Earth. Admiral Park said. Prepare the ground forces for deployment. Major Jin A. Lim commanded the 3rd Assault Battalion, Earth's most experienced ground combat unit. She had fought in the asteroid mining wars and the rebellion on Europa. As she briefed her troops in the landing bay of Incheon Rising, she could see they were nervous but ready. Listen up, she told her assembled Marines. The enemy is dug in deep. They've had weeks to build their hive complexes. The environment is toxic, the weather is hostile, and we're outnumbered about 1,000 to 1. Her Marines grinned. Those were good odds for humans. The Villani survivors are depending on us. These people sent a distress call into space hoping someone would care enough to help. We're going to show them that humans don't abandon people who need us. The first landing shuttle touched down in what used to be the Villani capital city. Now it was a nightmare landscape of organic spires and feeding tubes. The Krotech had transformed the elegant Villani architecture into something that looked like the inside of a giant insect. Corporal Dongsu Park was the first human to set foot on Villani soil. The atmosphere readings in his helmet showed toxin levels that would kill most galactic species in minutes. For a human wearing proper equipment, it was just another dangerous environment. Air quality is terrible but manageable, he reported. Temperature is 47 degrees Celsius in the shade. High humidity. Lots of organic particles in the air. Sounds like a summer day in Seoul, replied his squad leader, Sergeant Yuri Shin. Move out. The human assault team spread across the planet's surface, targeting the largest hive complexes. What they found was unlike any battlefield they had trained for. The Krotech had turned entire city blocks into living organisms. Streets pulsed like arteries. Buildings breathed. The ground itself seemed to be digesting everything it touched. This is disgusting, muttered Private Hyrin Kwan as she stepped over what used to be a Villani monument. Now it was covered in organic slime that tried to grab her boots. Stay focused, ordered Sergeant Shin. Remember, these bugs are afraid of us. Let's give them something to be afraid of. The first Krotech ground forces they encountered were worker drones, smaller than the warriors they had fought in space, but still dangerous. These creatures were busy converting Villani structures into hive material when the humans attacked. The drones had never faced ground combat against humans before. They were used to the Villani, who were fragile and easily overwhelmed. When Corporal Park opened fire with his assault rifle, the kinetic rounds tore through the drone's natural armor like paper. But the real advantage humans had was their ability to adapt to hostile environments. When the hive complex started releasing clouds of acid vapor, most alien species would have retreated. Humans put on protective gear and kept fighting. The acid isn't that bad, reported Private Kwan, whose armor was smoking from the chemical attack. It's like working in a metal processing plant. Sergeant Shin had a better idea. If they want to use acid as a weapon, let's show them how it's really done. She had her demolitions expert, Corporal Min-Soo Jang, collect the bioacid in containers and turn it into improvised weapons. Human chemistry knowledge for the win, Jang said as he rigged acid bombs from Krotech materials. They grow this stuff. We know how to make it explode. 3 hours into the ground assault, the human forces encountered their first major hive complex. It was a massive organic structure that reached deep underground, filled with thousands of Krotech warriors and worker drones. Major Lim studied the structure through her binoculars. Conventional assault would take days and cost too many lives. We need a better approach. Field medic Sang-Hoon Lee had been studying Krotech biology during the space battle. Ma'am, I think I know their weakness. The hive structures are living organisms. They have nervous systems, circulatory systems, vital organs. If we can find the right pressure points, you want to perform surgery on a building? Essentially, yes, ma'am. The assault on the main hive became a masterpiece of human tactical thinking. Instead of attacking the heavily defended entrances, the Marines used shaped charges to blow holes directly into what Dr. Lee identified as the structure's vital organs. Corporal Park found himself inside the hive's equivalent of a heart chamber, a pulsing organic room that pumped nutrients throughout the structure. "This is seriously gross," he reported as he planted explosive charges. "Just think of it as really aggressive medical procedures," advised Dr. Lee over the radio. When the charges detonated, the entire hive complex shuddered and began to collapse. Thousands of Krotech warriors poured out of the dying structure, only to face human Marines who had positioned themselves in defensive positions. But something unexpected happened during the battle. A group of Volani survivors emerged from a hidden shelter, led by their council elder, an elderly alien named Veltar. The Volani were exactly as fragile as Dr. Choi had predicted. They moved carefully, their thin limbs shaking with exhaustion and fear. Their skin was pale and almost translucent. But when they saw humans fighting the Krotech, their large eyes filled with something that looked like hope. "You came," Veltar said in broken English, which he had learned from monitoring human communications. "You actually came to help us." Major Lim was reloading her weapon while talking to the alien leader. "We got your message. We don't ignore distress calls, but you are so few, and the Krotech are so many. Why would you risk your lives for strangers?" "Because it's the right thing to do," Lim replied simply. Veltar watched in amazement as human Marines shared their rations with hungry Volani children. He saw medics treating Volani wounds with the same care they gave human injuries. Most shocking of all, he watched humans continue fighting in environmental conditions that would have killed Volani in minutes. "Your people are incredible," he told Major Lim. "The Krotech have destroyed a dozen worlds. No one has ever fought them successfully. How do you do it?" "We're from a tough planet," Lim explained. "This environment would be considered mild by Earth standards. The toxins, the heat, the acid, we've dealt with worse. And you fight even when injured?" Lim looked around the battlefield, where wounded Marines were still engaging Krotech warriors. "Humans don't quit. It's not in our nature." As the day continued, human forces cleared hive complex after hive complex. They used Krotech bioweapons against their creators, turned the hostile environment into an advantage, and demonstrated a level of tactical flexibility that confused the hive-minded aliens. Young Volani survivor named Mirani spent the day following Sergeant Shin's squad. She was fascinated by human combat techniques and had started picking up Korean curse words from the Marines. "Why do you use so many different words for expressing anger?" she asked innocently during a brief lull in the fighting. "Because we have a lot to be angry about," Shin replied, reloading her weapon. "But we use that anger to fuel our fighting. Makes us more effective." By the end of the day, the human ground forces had cleared most of the major hive complexes and rescued over 50,000 Volani survivors. The Krotech ground forces that weren't destroyed had retreated into deep underground tunnels. But as Admiral Park received reports from the surface, she learned something disturbing. According to Volani intelligence, the main Krotech force wasn't in the hive complexes they had just destroyed. All of those warriors and workers had been just the advance force. The real Krotech army, including their queen, was still deep underground, preparing for a final assault that would consume what remained of the planet. And to reach them, the humans would have to go down into the deepest, most dangerous parts of the Krotech hive system, where the aliens had every advantage. Major Lim looked at the tunnel entrances that led into the planet's core and smiled grimly. "Well," she told her troops, "looks like the real fight is just beginning." The Volani system was a nightmare. As soon as the human fleet dropped out of hyperspace, every sensor screen filled with hostile contacts. Krotech bioships swarmed around the third planet like angry insects. The ships were alive, grown instead of built, with organic hulls that pulsed like beating hearts. "Admiral, I'm counting over 200 enemy vessels," reported Lieutenant Kang from his tactical station. "They range from small fighters to massive capital ships. Some of them are." "Admiral, some of them are feeding on the planet itself." Admiral Park looked at the main screen and felt sick. The largest Krotech ships had extended long, root-like appendages down to the planet's surface. They were literally consuming the world, sucking up everything organic and converting it into more bioships. "Any sign of Volani resistance?" she asked. Negative, ma'am. I'm not detecting any active Volani ships. Their orbital platforms are destroyed. Whatever defensive fleet they had is gone. Commander Dae-ho Kim's voice came over the communication system from Seoul's Pride. Admiral, we're getting a weak signal from the planet's surface. It's the same Volani distress call, but much fainter now. Some of them are still alive, Admiral Park said. Tactical, what are our options? Lieutenant Kang studied his displays. Ma'am, we're outnumbered 25-1. The enemy ships are larger than ours. In a conventional engagement, we'd be destroyed in minutes. Good thing we don't fight conventional engagements, Admiral Park said. All ships, battle stations. We're going in fast and hard. Dr. Yoon-ji Han, the fleet's xenobiologist, was monitoring the enemy ships from her laboratory aboard the medical vessel Busan Hope. Admiral, I'm getting interesting readings from the Krotech vessels. Their biosignatures indicate extreme agitation. They're reacting to our presence with what appears to be fear. Fear? They outnumber us 25-1. What do they have to be afraid of? Unknown, ma'am. But their stress hormones are spiking. It's as if they recognize us as a threat. Admiral Park smiled grimly. Maybe they've heard of Deathworlders too. All ships engage the enemy. Target the largest vessels first. What happened next would be talked about in galactic military academies for the next 100 years. The human fleet didn't maintain long-range formation like other species. Instead, they accelerated directly toward the enemy swarm. Seoul's Pride led the charge, with Commander Dae-ho pushing his engines past safe limits. The Krotech opened fire with bioplasma weapons that could melt through most alien armor. But human ships were designed to take damage. When Seoul's Pride's forward armor melted away, the ship kept coming. Ramming speed, shouted Dae-ho over the communications channel. Did he just say ramming speed? Asked Communications Officer Seo. Yes, he did, Admiral Park replied. All ships follow Seoul's Pride in. Show them how humans fight. Seoul's Pride slammed into a Krotech capital ship at full velocity. Both vessels shuddered under the impact. But the human ship's reinforced hull punched through the organic armor of the alien vessel. Immediately, boarding pods launched from Seoul's Pride into the enemy ship. Captain Soo-jin Bae led the first boarding party. She was a small woman, barely 5 feet tall, but she had trained in Earth's most dangerous combat zones. As her pod burned through the Krotech ship's hull, she could hear her Marines checking their weapons. Remember, these are bug-like aliens, she told her team. Expect multiple limbs, natural armor, and hive-mind coordination. Stick together and watch each other's backs. The pod breached the enemy hull and Soo-jin kicked open the door. The Krotech ship's interior was like nothing she had ever seen. The walls were alive, pulsing with veins and arteries. The air was thick with organic particles that would have choked most alien species. For humans, it was just another hostile environment. The first Krotech warrior that met them was 8 feet tall, with 4 arms ending in razor-sharp claws. Its chitinous armor looked tough enough to stop bullets. It made a sound like screaming steam and charged at the boarding party. Soo-jin shot it 3 times in the center of mass with her kinetic rifle. The creature staggered but kept coming. She rolled to the side as its claws swept through the space where her head had been, then put 2 more rounds into what she hoped was its brain case. The Krotech warrior collapsed, green fluid leaking from its wounds. Well, they can be killed, she reported over her radio. Keep moving. We need to find their control center. Meanwhile, in space, the rest of the human fleet was demonstrating why galactic species considered them barbarically primitive. Instead of fighting at long range with energy weapons, human ships closed to point-blank range and used kinetic cannons that fired solid projectiles at incredible velocities. Engineer Tae-young-oh aboard the destroyer, Gwangju's hammer, had a brilliant idea. His ship was badly damaged, with hull breaches and failing life support. Instead of retreating, he rerouted power from the damaged sections and overloaded the main drive. Captain, I'm going to ram that bioship and detonate our fusion core on impact, he reported to his commanding officer. That's suicide. Tae-young, no sir, it's tactical thinking. We can take out a ship 10 times our size. The crew can evacuate in escape pods. Do it. Gwangju's hammer accelerated toward a massive Krotech vessel that was feeding on the planet below. At the last second, the crew evacuated while Tae-young manually piloted the ship into the enemy's feeding apparatus. The fusion core detonated on impact, vaporizing both ships and severing the bioship's connection to the planet. Back on Seoul's Pride, Captain Soo-jin's boarding party had fought their way to what appeared to be the Krotech ship's command center. The organic walls were covered with neural interfaces that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns. "Ma'am, we've got contacts incoming," reported Sergeant Yuri Shin. "Looks like a lot of them." Dozens of Krotech warriors poured into the command chamber. Sujin's Marines took defensive positions and opened fire. The kinetic weapons punched through Krotech armor. But the aliens kept coming. They seemed to feel no pain, no fear, no hesitation. But as the battle continued, something strange happened. The Krotech attacks became less coordinated. They started making mistakes, hesitating, even retreating when they had numerical advantages. Dr. Yoon Ji-han, monitoring the battle from Busan Hope, saw it in her bio readings. "Admiral, the Krotech stress indicators are off the charts. They're not just afraid, they're terrified. I'm reading panic responses from every enemy ship." "What's causing it?" Admiral Park asked. "I think it's us, ma'am. They've never fought a species like humans before. We're not behaving like prey animals. We're acting like predators, and it's confusing their hive mind." In the Krotech command center, Sujin noticed the change too. The alien warriors were backing away from her Marines, communicating with each other in high-pitched chittering sounds. "They're scared," she realized. "Keep pushing forward. Don't give them time to regroup." Field medic Sang-Hoon Lee was treating wounded Marines while still under fire. Most alien species would have evacuated their wounded or retreated to safe positions. Humans kept fighting while their medics worked in the middle of the battle zone. "Sujin, the wounded are stable," he reported. "But I'm seeing something interesting. The Krotech warriors we killed, their biochemistry shows extreme fear responses. I don't think they've ever encountered a species that fights back this aggressively." 2 hours after the battle began, the Krotech swarm started to retreat. The remaining bioships disengaged from the planet and moved toward the edge of the system. They left behind dozens of destroyed vessels and thousands of dead warriors. The human fleet had lost 3 ships and taken heavy casualties. But they had achieved something that no other galactic species had managed. They had made the Krotech swarm afraid. Admiral Park surveyed the battlefield from her bridge. "Status report." "The enemy is retreating, ma'am," reported Lieutenant Kang. "We're detecting weak life signs from several areas on the planet's surface. The Volani survivors are still alive. And the Krotech?" Dr. Yoon Ji-han looked up from her instruments with amazement. "Admiral, according to my readings, the retreating bioships are broadcasting what appears to be a warning signal. They're telling other Krotech swarms to avoid this system." Admiral Park nodded grimly. The galaxy had just learned something new about humanity. When humans answered a distress call, they didn't just offer help. They brought war to your enemy's doorstep. And sometimes that was exactly what the universe needed. The jump to Volani space took 18 hours. During that time, the human fleet moved through the strange place between normal space and hyperspace. It was a place where time moved differently, and the laws of physics seemed to bend. On the bridge, of Incheon Rising, Admiral Park studied everything they knew about the sector they were entering. It wasn't much. The star chart showed a yellow sun with 6 planets. 2 of them might support life. Beyond that, they were flying blind. "Admiral, we're getting some interesting communications traffic," reported Communications Officer Junho Seo. "Other alien species are talking about our movement. They seem very surprised." "What are they saying?" Admiral Park asked. "The Zephyrian Council sent a message asking why the Deathworlders are heading toward a war zone. The Crystalline Dominion wants to know if we're planning to claim Volani territory after the Krotech destroy it." Admiral Park frowned. "Deathworlders? Is that what they call us?" "Yes, ma'am. Apparently it's a common term in galactic languages. It refers to species that evolved on planets with dangerous environments." Dr. Hyunwoo Choi, the fleet's chief medical officer, was also on the bridge. He looked up from his tablet. "That actually makes sense, Admiral. Earth is considered extremely dangerous by galactic standards. Most planets that support life are much more peaceful than Earth." "What do you mean?" asked Admiral Park. "Well, ma'am, think about it. Earth has poisonous animals, deadly weather, diseases, volcanoes, earthquakes, and natural disasters that can kill thousands of people. Most alien worlds are much safer. Their evolution was gentler. They never had to become as tough as humans." Dr. Choi pulled up information about the Volani on his screen. "I've been studying the biological data from their distress message. The Volani evolved on a world with low gravity and a very stable climate. Their bones are hollow, like birds. Their skin is thin and tears easily. What we would consider a minor injury could kill them. How minor? Admiral Park asked. A hard fall could break their bones. A small cut could cause them to bleed to death. They can't handle temperature changes that humans barely notice, and their atmosphere has to be exactly right or they can't breathe. Lieutenant Min-Ho Kang, the fleet's tactical officer, looked worried. Admiral, if they're that fragile, how are we supposed to fight alongside them? We're not fighting alongside them, Admiral Park said. We're fighting for them. They can't fight these Krotech. That's why they sent the distress call. Dr. Choi continued reading his data. It gets more interesting, Admiral. According to galactic databases, most intelligent species are herbivores. They eat plants, not meat. They evolved from prey animals, not predators. Humans are unusual because we evolved from hunters. What difference does that make? Asked Communications Officer CO. Everything, said Lieutenant Kang. Predator species think differently. We're used to hunting, fighting, taking risks. Prey species are used to hiding, running away, avoiding conflict. No wonder they think we're dangerous. Admiral Park thought about this. So when other species heard the Villani distress call, why, didn't they help? Because helping would mean fighting the Krotech, Dr. Choi said. Most galactic species avoid violence. They have peaceful governments and small military forces. They're not equipped for the kind of war the Krotech bring. But humans are, Lieutenant Kang said with a small smile. Yes, we are. Admiral Park agreed. The question is, are we equipped enough? Engineer Bo Young-yoon joined the conversation. She had been working on modifying the fleet's weapons. Admiral, I've been thinking about our armaments. Our kinetic weapons are designed to fight other humans. They might be too powerful for these alien species. What do you mean? Well, ma'am, our standard assault rifles fire projectiles at 3,000 feet per second. That's enough to punch through human body armor. If the Villani are as fragile as Dr. Choi says, our weapons could accidentally kill them even if we're trying to help. And the Krotech? Unknown, ma'am, but I'm working on adjustable power settings for our weapons, just in case. The fleet continued its journey through hyperspace. As they got closer to Villani space, more alien communications came in. Other species were very interested in what the humans were doing. Admiral, the Hegemony Council is demanding to know our intentions, reported Officer Seo. They say human. Military doctrine is classified as barbarically primitive by galactic standards. Barbarically primitive? Admiral Park laughed. What's primitive about it? Lieutenant Kang pulled up tactical displays. According to their databases, ma'am, most galactic warfare happens at extreme long range. Ships fire energy weapons at each other from thousands of kilometers away. The species with better shields and longer range weapons wins. Very clean, very predictable. And human doctrine? We like to get close. We use kinetic weapons, projectiles, explosives. We board enemy ships and fight hand to hand. We ram enemy vessels if we have to. By galactic standards, we fight like wild animals. Dr. Choi looked up from his medical bay reports. There's something else, Admiral. I've been reviewing our crew medical files. The average human can survive in environments that would kill most galactic species in minutes. We can handle temperature changes, pressure changes, toxic atmospheres, radiation levels that are considered impossible by alien standards. Give me an example. Well, ma'am, humans can survive at altitudes where the air is so thin that most aliens would suffocate. We can work in temperatures hot enough to cook Villani flesh or cold enough to freeze their blood. Our immune systems can fight off diseases that would kill entire alien populations. Admiral Park began to understand why other species called humans Deathworlders. So we're naturally equipped to fight in environments that would be deadly to our enemies. Exactly, ma'am. And that's not even counting our technology. Human military equipment is designed to work in extreme conditions. Our soldiers are trained to fight in environments that most aliens can't even visit. Admiral, we're approaching the target system, announced Navigator Corporal Lee from Soul's Pride, dropping out of hyperspace in 30 seconds. Admiral Park looked around her bridge. Her crew was ready. Her ships were prepared for battle. Her people were willing to fight for strangers they had never met, on a world they had never seen. against an enemy they didn't understand. Other galactic species thought humans were primitive and dangerous. Maybe they were right. But sometimes, primitive and dangerous was exactly what the universe needed. All ships prepare for normal space transition, Admiral Park ordered. Let's go see what we're dealing with. The fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Volani system. What they found there would change everything humans thought they knew about galactic politics. And it would teach the galaxy why answering a distress call from Deathworlders was something you did very carefully. The stars looked the same as always when Commander Daeho Kim finished his patrol route. His ship, Soul's Pride, moved slowly through the empty space between solar systems. It was supposed to be a quiet day. Just another routine check of the outer rim territories that Earth had claimed 5 years ago. Daeho stretched in his captain's chair and looked at the main screen. Space was big and mostly empty. Sometimes he wondered why Earth bothered sending ships this far out. Nothing ever happened here. The most exciting thing in the last month was finding a broken asteroid mining probe. "Sir, I'm getting something strange on the long-range communications," said Lieutenant Bo-Rahan from her station. She was the youngest member of his crew, fresh from the academy on Earth. Her job was to listen for any signals from other ships or planets. "What kind of strange?" Daeho asked. He was used to false alarms. Space was full of random signals from stars and old satellites. "It's not human, sir. The language is completely different. But the computer is trying to translate it." Bora's voice sounded worried. "Sir, I think someone is asking for help." Daeho sat up straight. First contact with aliens was supposed to happen through official channels, not during a routine patrol. "Put it on the main speaker. Let's hear what we're dealing with." The bridge filled with strange musical sounds. It was beautiful in a way, like singing birds, but there was something desperate about it. The computer worked hard to turn the alien words into Korean, then into English. "Help us. Please, anyone who can hear this message. We are the Volani Republic. Our world is dying. The Krotek have come to our system. They consume everything. Our cities are gone. Our people are dying. We have maybe 3 days before our planet is completely destroyed. We know we are not strong fighters. We know we have little to offer. But if there is anyone out there who values life, please help us. This is our final message. Our communication systems will not last much longer." The message repeated several times, then stopped. The bridge was completely quiet. Daeho had never heard anything so sad in his life. "Sir, what do we do?" asked Bora. Her hands were shaking a little. Daeho thought about his orders. He was supposed to patrol this area and report anything unusual. Contact with unknown alien species was definitely unusual. But the aliens weren't contacting Earth directly. They were just screaming into space, hoping someone would hear them. "Record the message. Send it to Fleet Command immediately," he said, "and set course for Admiral Park's position. Maximum speed." "Sir, shouldn't we wait for orders from Earth?" asked his navigation officer, Corporal Myung-Soo Lee. "By the time we get orders from Earth, these Volani people will be dead," Daeho said. "Admiral Park can make the decision. She's in charge of this sector." Soul's Pride turned and accelerated toward the main fleet position. It would take 6 hours to reach Admiral Soonja Park's flagship, Incheon Rising. Daeho spent those hours thinking about the message. Who were the Volani? Who were the Krotek? And why was Earth's small fleet the only one close enough to help? Admiral Park was in her 60s with gray hair and sharp eyes that had seen too many battles. She had fought in the war against the Mars colonies 20 years ago. She had been in charge of Earth's first contact with the peaceful traders from the Centauri system. If anyone could decide what to do, it was her. When Daeho arrived on the Incheon Rising, Admiral Park was waiting for him in her office. The walls were covered with pictures of Earth's blue oceans and green forests. It reminded everyone why they were out here so far from home. "Play the message again," Admiral Park said after Daeho explained what happened. They listened to the desperate alien voices asking for help. Admiral Park's face didn't change, but Daeho could see her thinking hard. "What do we know about this sector?" she asked her aide, Captain Ji-Hoon Yu. "Very little, ma'am. It's about 12 light years from here. No human ships have ever been there. According to our star charts, there should be several planets that could support life. And we have no information about these Krotek or Volani species?" "Nothing, ma'am. Earth Command has never heard of either name." Admiral Park walked to the window that showed the stars outside. Earth's fleet was small compared to what other alien species had, but it was tough. Human ships were built to last, and human crews were trained to handle almost anything. Ma'am, with respect, this isn't our problem, said Captain Yu. We have orders to protect Earth's colonies. Getting involved in alien wars could make us enemies we don't need. You're right, Captain. It's not our problem, Admiral Park said. But it could become our problem. If these Krotech are dangerous enough to destroy entire planets, they might come for our colonies next. Better to face them now when we choose the battlefield. She turned back to face her officers. Besides, Earth didn't become a spacefaring civilization by ignoring people who need help. Send orders to all ships in the sector. We're going to Villani space. Ma'am, what about Earth Command? Shouldn't we ask for permission first? Captain Yu asked. By the time we get permission, the Villani will be extinct, Admiral Park said. I'll take responsibility for this decision. Prepare the fleet for immediate departure. Daeho felt his heart beating faster. This was really happening. Earth's fleet was going to help complete strangers fight an unknown enemy. It was exactly the kind of thing that made him proud to wear a human uniform. Sir, what if it's a trap? Asked Captain Yu. What if these Villani are lying to get us into their territory? Admiral Park looked at him with those sharp eyes. Captain, did you hear that message? No one fakes that kind of desperation. Those people are dying and they asked for help. As long as I'm in command of this fleet, we don't ignore calls for help. 2 hours later, Soul's Pride was part of a small fleet jumping toward unknown space. 8 human ships carrying 3,000 men and women from Earth. They had no idea what they would find when they arrived. They didn't know if they were strong enough to fight these Krotech. They didn't even know if the Villani would still be alive when they got there. But they were going anyway because that's what humans did. When someone called for help, humans answered.